Hallo und willkommen, ich bin Meister Lehns and you're watching Get Germanized, how I, a German, learned English.
I am bored, what should I do?
Ich weiß.
Get Germanized.
One of the most asked questions that I get is how did you learn English? Because I think people hope that that information, great, my English is so good, helps them to learn German or other languages, I suppose. And I have to say, it took me a long time. I've been learning English now for about 15, 16 years, maybe even a bit longer. I don't remember exactly. No, probably like around 14, 15 years, something like that. Long time. So I still make mistakes though. I still learn. I learn up to this day. I learn every day. And I have such a large vocabulary, as you can see. But no, I'm still learning, right? I make mistakes. Sometimes I get a word wrong. I can't think of a word. I mean, that happens to me in German sometimes as well, but it happens. And that is normal. It will happen to you. It will happen to anyone who learns a language. But this video is not about that languages are hard. This video is about how I learned English. Well, okay. So, back in school, right, our teacher told us, well, by learning a language, you have a responsibility to use it. Something like that. And so I did. I tried finding native speakers that I could talk to on a page called Interpals, right? Yeah, I know now people will creep up and stalk me there. I don't care. But that's what I used. I used sometimes Skype when I made friends on Interpals. And I used YouTube obviously at some point as well. I always kind of made videos like this one just on a camcorder before, and then it transitioned into YouTube and I started making English videos talking about God and the world, Gott und die Welt, as we say in German. That's just about anything really, like about myself, about what I like, my interests, music and video games and anime and stuff like that. And so people kept asking questions, and so I told them in English about this. So speaking in YouTube videos has definitely helped me, because you can also listen back to what you say, right? And you can hear if it sounds similar to maybe a native speaker that you've heard before, or you could even compare videos. Like, does it sound similar? Does it sound really off? How can I improve? And people in the comments will of course also help you improve your language, your accent, your skills in general, I suppose. And that really did help me. And YouTube also led me to have English-speaking girlfriends at some point because of my videos. And that definitely bumped up my learning abilities quite a bit, I would say. It is very frustrating at first, believe me, if you have an argument with someone and you don't speak the language that well. You get so angry and so frustrated with yourself and with the general situation, because you want to get your point across to win the argument, but you can't. You just can't. And so it gets like really, and I usually in the beginning of like my first English speaking relationship, I said like, this is not fair. I know I'm right. I just can't tell you that I'm right. Or how I'm right. Something along those lines, I think at some point I've said. And it is very frustrating, like I said, but it helps. It definitely helps, because you will look up these words. Trust me, you will. Just for the sake of winning at some point, maybe. But definitely relationships help. I always hear questions as well, like, oh, I'm with a German. Why can't I speak German? Like, he doesn't teach me anything. That's mainly, I would say, because for me personally, it helped being in a relationship with an English speaker, but don't see them as your teacher, because that will not work. It just won't. The power level should be equal, and if one of you is the teacher and one of you the student, then it shifts, and that just leads to frustration. They make you responsible for not learning well enough, or that you don't teach them regularly, or that you don't want to teach them, because it's a relationship. Why should you be a teacher in the relationship all the time, right? That's just not fair on either parts, I don't think. So what I suspect people should be doing instead is, well, actually go to a language course. And maybe every now and then, of course, it's no big deal to help out with some language questions, but don't see your partner as your teacher. That just doesn't work. At least it didn't for me. Maybe some people out there have different opinions on this, but for me, just did not work. Especially when you have many language videos and I could have just pointed at a video and said, hey, why don't you just watch that? Hey, instead of me explaining this all to you. But of course that gets them angry and yeah, no, it doesn't work. Another thing that I personally learned English with was movies, was anime, was books, TV shows and all of that kind of stuff in English with German subtitles, or sometimes I use English subtitles, for example, for anime. Now people will ask me what my favorite anime are. I might answer that in the comments instead of here, because that would blast the topic out of proportion, because I love a lot of anime. But yeah, I used English subtitles for anime, and sometimes they weren't available with German subtitles yet. So I looked up every word that I didn't know in like an online dictionary, like DICT.CC, for example, that I still use to this day. So that I would understand the story better. Same goes for movies and books and all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes I just couldn't get my hands on the German version, so I used the English one instead and looked up the words I didn't know. And I think what is especially important here to keep in mind is if something is interesting to you in a different language, if the topic is really something you're passionate about, if you really love it, then it will help you learn so much more than something boring. For example, if I had to learn English with mathematics topics or something like that, no way, I would have stopped right away. But since it was interesting stuff, it was so much easier, right? So I suggest find something that you love and find it in German. For example, we have a lot of German dubbings of all different kinds of Hollywood movies. Every Hollywood movie imaginable, or every famous TV show is most likely to have a German version. So what we do here in Germany, we just take the movie and put German voice acting over it. So every German voice, or every American Hollywood actor, for example, has a German voice acting equivalent. They're not really famous here or like rich or anything like that. Maybe rich, I'm not sure how much they earn, but it's different than to an actual Hollywood star. They just have their voice in the movie, and that's about it. So any English movie has a German version. Same with shows, same with books, like the popular ones. Harry Potter you can find in German, Lord of the Rings German, The Hobbit in German, so many more. So definitely look that up. I have also recently made a video about German audiobooks that could be interesting to you, because I personally enjoy audiobooks in all different kinds of languages. Same as with the movies, you can of course choose one that interests you greatly, and you can even listen to it in your sleep, I suppose, because some people try to do that. Not sure if that works really or not, how well that works. But audiobooks, I will link the video and everything helpful I can think of. I will link in the video description. Some other tips that I can give you is, of course, different language learning apps. I didn't really use them all that much, but there is a free one called DUOLINGO. Most of you guys will know that. I've made review videos for different language companies. I won't name any others now because they are not free. It costs money. But if you know my channel, you know which ones I'm talking about. There's a plentiful variety out there for sure if you're into language learning sites and apps. Also, there is the possibility to set your Windows or whatever operating system you're using into German or to German, and then, well, learn German a little bit more that way, at least like technical computer terms, I suppose, or desktop terms, whatever you see there really. You can set video games into the German language sometimes if you get the European version of it. You can attach post-it notes to everything with the German term for it on it. For example, put it on your head and write Kopf on it. Something like that. You know where I'm getting with this, right? So that works. I've seen this many times. People do this all the time, put post-it notes on stuff with vocabulary on it. I guess it helps. I've never really done that, but I mean, you kind of learn by looking at stuff and associating it with the word, right? Like you did as a kid, just repeat words and associate it with pictures and things and emotions as well. So do that if it helps you. There's other more expensive apps that I've used in the past. I'm gonna name one. You don't really have to buy it. It's okay, like it's called Rosetta Stone, not sponsored by anything in this video, by the way, just full disclosure as always. And yeah, I mean, it makes you repeat stuff, it makes you click on pictures and stuff, similar to the way you learned as a kid. That could be something for some people, but it's pretty expensive if I remember correctly. It's been a long time since I used that the last time. I used it for Japanese, I think, when I wanted to learn a bit more of the language, and I just I think my ex-girlfriend used it for German as well, if I remember that correctly. So that is expensive, but kind of useful to get started with. But there's also, like I said, Duolingo, and there's all these other possibilities and options that I've just given you. So maybe you guys know of some more different ways, better ways even, to learn a language, to learn German. Let me know in the comments below, would highly appreciate that. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and consider supporting me on patreon.com/getgermanized and becoming a part of the Germ Elite, the part of the Germ fam that financially supports and sponsors pretty much all of my videos, so that I can give you videos 3 times a week, every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday at 8 p.m. CET, that's Germany time. Well, you guys rock, you guys are amazing, thank you so much. Share the video, that always helps a bunch as well. Interact, comment, even if you're just lurking, just comment something about the video. Helps a bunch, and apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to get Germanized. Goodbye and auf Wiedersehen.